Happy New Year, everybody. Today is the anniversary for 6 weeks recovery from my level 3-4 ACDF and removal of hardware at 4 through 6, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7. So 4 through 7. I don't know if you've seen my other videos, but I went from like sheer depression, existential crisis, pre-op months before, to sort of accepting going into surgery and coming out with some pretty miserable, I'm just going to say side effects, not rather complications, because they were sort of expected, but since I'm recovering from those, medically speaking, we would call them side effects. So pain-wise was not too bad. I was off all narcotics at day 5, and after that I just took extra strength Tylenol for a few days, and then after that, not much more pain. Some other people I've seen online really had no pain. I don't get that unless their surgeons used Exparel, which is a 3-day long-acting local anesthetic. I honestly don't know how you get through a major neck dissection deep into your spine, screws into the bone, and have no pain. But there are people who say they have no pain. As the doctor, I can say that being on narcotics after hardware removal and an ACDF at C3-4, which is behind the base of the tongue, so it leaves this incredible swelling on the throat, the interior of the throat and pharynx, as well as surgical pain, as well as bone pain. 4 or 5 days of opioids is actually not considered excessive. It's a normal expected amount. I had to get off of them because of the constipation. And then I went about 4 weeks with swallowing issues, choking on my saliva, inability to drink liquids without aspirating, having to eat soft foods. For about 2 to 4 weeks, between 2 and 4 weeks, I started adding slightly chunkier food, like some salads and more raw vegetables or semi-cooked, whereas everything had to be cooked and soft before. By 4 weeks, I was eating more normal food, sort of trying not to eat meat in general. I was doing this prior to my diagnosis. I study Ayurveda, and I'll be teaching it. So although I'm not a full vegetarian, definitely trying to significantly lower my meat intake, and I didn't think it was necessary. During my recovery, I was eating some lentils and chickpeas and beans and some protein from other sources. But by week 4, I was craving meat, and probably my body needed some more protein for healing. Protein smoothies were pretty much impossible to drink because of my swallowing issues. So just going back to how I mentioned side effects, the swallowing, the pharyngeal swelling, as well as swelling and edema on the nerves that go to your swallowing muscles, were expected to be swollen, and sometimes some of those small tributary nerves, branches of the glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve, could be permanently damaged. So until you hit 6 weeks, the doctors won't be able to tell you if you'll have permanent swallowing issues. And remember, that's really more applicable to patients having surgeries higher up in the neck, 2, 3, or 3, 4. Lower down, the swallowing issues are usually very temporary from surgical swelling and edema. Voice issues, I still have. In fact, they're worse now than they were before. We just passed through the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's, and I did see a lot of family. Although I was mostly alone, somehow, there were just, whenever I did see people, it was very hard to sit in a corner on a couch and nobody talked to me. So the voice issues are very uncomfortable. It's voice fatigue, is what it's called, and it's not related to injury or swelling on the vocal cords themselves, but rather on the recurrent laryngeal nerve, from the neck dissection. And the first time I had surgery from 4 through 7, it took a year to recover. And being an anesthesiologist, it really sucked. It was miserable. It was so difficult to speak to patients, especially in hospitals that nowadays are noisy. There's no respect with quiet. Majority of my patients are hard of hearing, and so they would say, "Can you speak up?" And I'd say, "Nope, I can't," and I'd have to get close to them. And thank God this all happened before the pandemic, because whispering and speaking in a patient's face, with or without a mask, even with a mask, would have been challenging. I would grab help from partners or my nurse anesthetist whenever possible. But it was a difficult year, and so I really pray it's not going to be the same for a year. It's depressing. So we'll see. I probably sound okay right now, but what I feel is this vibration in my throat, a scratchiness, and if I go on for more than another 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I will be like, can't talk anymore. And there are times when I can't make any noise, any phonation, and other times where I sound a little bit normal. So I think it also all depends on use, rest, hydration, things like that. I also get very short of breath, probably because I'm using accessory muscles to speak. I have no change in pitch. I was trying to say woohoo, woohoo to some friends that were surfing yesterday, like a squeaky. It won't come out. It just, if you're a singer, hope you have a backup plan. Okay, so that was swallowing and voice. Pain-wise, we're going to go back to pain. So for 4 or 5 weeks, it's a great, almost no pain after the post-op day 5. I would get very tired holding my head. I think that's pretty well known to most people once they take off their soft collar. My soft collar got taken off at post-op week 4, and then I was allowed to drive. But driving is next to impossible because I cannot turn more than, let's say, 10 degrees, maybe 15 degrees. And so although I have like 8 cameras on my car, I'm fortunate to be able to afford a car like that, there's still blind spots and you can't see when you're near areas where there could be children or small pets or objects. So you have to be really, really, really cautious. And the kids were in town visiting, so I lent them my car, and I really wasn't driving. Just use that opportunity during the holidays to rest, cook for my family, and just enjoy my time with them. And I took up some crafts projects like sewing and knitting, and was working on a course. Okay. Also at post-op week 4, I was allowed to start stretching. So I started some yoga. And again, it was the holidays. I didn't get too much in. And I went really gentle. I mean, when he said, okay, you could stretch a little, my surgeon doesn't really know what yoga is. He knows what it is, but I don't think he's ever done it. But I know, not only being an athlete and a doctor, I'm a pretty aware person, so my yoga is generally power yoga. It's power yoga. Even if I'm doing a slow yin, it's pretty intense. So he said I can go through about 20% of motion that I would expect if I were normal. So if my range would be from my chin to my shoulder, 20%. That's all I can do anyway. So I do very little neck mobility. I try to stay aligned, and I'm really working more on opening my shoulders and the rest of my body, my hips, things like that. And so here I am if it wasn't obvious already, I got my yoga mat set up, and I have my water, which has mint and lime in it, and cucumber, lime, mint, because I am a pitta dosha. For those of you who know Ayurveda, pitta dosha is fire and water energy, body, mind energy type. And so we like things that are cooling, like avocado, cucumber, mint, coriander, things like that. And we love green, and we love blue and green. Somehow I knew all this stuff before I took this into my mind body type. I was like, oh, whoa, that's cool. All right, what else? So I was back to the pain. I definitely digress. So back to the pain at week 5. I started to have severe, it's hard to call it pain because it was not burning, stabbing, aching, but it was excruciating muscle spasm ache in the back of my neck and posterior muscles. And it got so bad, and at first I just thought I overdid it during the day. I think it was at the end of Christmas Eve, and then I was at my brother's house for Christmas Day, and I was really just sitting on a couch or a table, sitting at the table. I wasn't standing and cooking, and my son helped me cook Christmas Day, so I wasn't at the kitchen leaning over the sink or stove or looking down chopping, so I couldn't explain why I was in so much pain. Because I noticed cooking and chopping and standing at the sink would strain you too much, because even though you're trying not to look down, you're definitely flexing your neck in a down position. So those 2 days I did not do those activities, and despite that I still had tremendous amount of muscle fatigue and spasm, which really, when it's severe, it can be painful. If you have a muscle cramp that's severe, if you ever had one in a swimming pool or in the ocean or after running, you will know that's definitely painful, but it wasn't like a surgical kind of pain. As I called my doctor Christmas Eve, or the night before Christmas Eve, I think it was the night before Christmas Eve, because I went to see a movie, and I was in tears, and my boyfriend did not know what to do with me, and I knew Tylenol wasn't going to work, and I was concerned did something shift, and he was like, oh, you're just out of the honeymoon period. He really wasn't surprised, so he said that was normal and expected. As your muscles wake up as you're doing more activity, you'll start to, sorry, I'm looking at the ocean because I'm a surfer, it's what I do, to give a report to my boyfriend. So he said it was normal to expect that. So I wasn't too worried after that, and did prescribe Flexeril, which they had asked me if I wanted it earlier. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, really didn't have any pain, but boy, did that kick in at post-op week 5. So I guess it's different for everyone, but generally speaking, it's expected around 4 to 6 weeks post-op. Okay. So I mentioned pain, swallowing. My swallowing is significantly improved. I still have a weird sensation in the back of my throat. It feels like there's always like loogies stuck back there, even though there isn't. Thank God I didn't get sick or catch a cold or anything. Or the C word. The dreaded C word. Which I happened to have last June and coughed my brains out. And I'm pretty sure that's how I blew out my C3-4 disc. The coughing was so bad, I thought I was going to die. But I didn't. A little albuterol nipped that in the butt. So swallowing, voice issues are not better, but I just have to deal with it. I know it will get better. And I think in the last 24 hours, the muscle spasm subsided. I did have an absolutely miserable sleep last night. The muscle pain, back of the neck, top of my shoulders. And by the time I woke up, I had burning on both my shoulders. Problem is, I don't know if that is post-surgical or I have another disc at C7-T1, and I have to have another surgery a year from now. He didn't want to do both surgeries at the same time, and I had 4 consults. Probably mentioned this in an earlier video, but we opted to do this in a staged procedure, and he wanted to make sure that I woke up and I was able to recover swallowing and speech ability. Doing 2 surgeries, one up here and one down here, and then posterior all in the same day. It would have been a 12-hour surgery. And the risk of DVT, PE, voice issues, blindness from posterior, from being prone position, all kinds of problems. Excess bleeding, infection, just you name it. There's a plethora of potential complications when you're doing multiple levels that separated. And I just said, okay, but so I don't know if the burning in my shoulders is related to that other disc, because those are symptoms I was having throughout. Regarding my symptoms, I had no symptoms with regards to this C3-4 herniation. Initially, I did. I was surfing in Pavones in Costa Rica, and it was about 12-foot waves, and we surfed our butts off for 6 days straight. We caught the dreaded C word, likely from the airplane. There was a bitch who coughed the whole trip and didn't have a mask, and she was 2 rows behind us. She coughed on my head literally the entire flight. I just knew I was going to get sick, and I was pissed. But we did yoga every day. We ate vegetarian food, smoothies, and we ate really healthy. We took our vitamins, and we got some hell of a viral load from that bitch. How they let her on the plane coughing, I don't know. And yes, I got the dreaded JAB as well against every grain of my being. It was early on, before we knew how bad the JAB is for us and how many people it's killing and harming. But I did it because my kids pushed me to do it. Mom, you're a doctor. You have to set an example. I think the example should have been I should have stood out and know that, I'm 50, healthy. I don't need this. Really healthy. All right, so that was just an aside. So after Pavones, I came home and we developed COVID, and my test came back negative, for those of you nosy people, the critical, judgy people who thinking, how did I get on the plane? We didn't know we were sick until we got home. And so I laid in bed for 2 weeks, and that's when I developed the nerve pain between my mid-spine and my left shoulder blade, which I thought was from laying in bed for 2 weeks. And I just needed to get up and stretch, and the pain eventually went over the back of my spine, from the base of my head down my spine. Burning, nerve-like electric pain, unbearable. It's called the Lermit sign, and I eventually realized it was serious. And that's how I found out I had the C3-4 disc herniation and the C17-1, and that's when he told me I needed both operating on, and that's when I fell into depression. Anyhow, so now that we talked about the side effects, my recovery, you understand, and in terms of symptoms, the symptoms, the Lermit sign and the left shoulder nerve pain had improved from rest, physical therapy, and obviously I wasn't really surfing all summer. There's no surf here, but I did, however, surf from September to my surgery in very small, calm conditions. I took it easy with neck extension, with paddling. I did not go out in big conditions. We did have a couple hurricane swells that were epic, and I did sit them out, knowing I had such a massive herniation with spinal cord compression. But as long as I was asymptomatic, I took that risk because I wasn't sure if I would come out of surgery alive or non-paralyzed. Despite having one of the best surgeons in my state, and despite knowing 100% that my anesthesiologists, who are my colleagues, were not going to let anything happen to me. So despite all of that, I still had fear, tremendous fear, and my first couple posts were very emotional. I allowed myself to be very vulnerable publicly because it doesn't matter how much you know, fear is very, very, very real. And not my surgeon for the staff. There's no doctor who can, who can allay our anxiety, or actually, they don't. If anything, they make it worse. They tell you the worst case scenario. All I wanted was someone to hold my hand. And what I realized was, the doctor's not going to do it. I do as a doctor. If you're my patient and you're upset and scared to undergo anesthesia, your hand's going to be held. It's going to be held whether I read my patients, and even though I have limited time with them, 5 minutes, half an hour, depending on the situation, I make sure my patients feel heard and seen. And that was something that was dreadfully missing. And I'm looking for this online community. I'm trying to find people that went through what I went through. I obviously can't reach out to my patients. I would ask them, hey, how do you feel about this and that? But I don't get to see them post-op as an anesthesiologist, and I certainly don't get to see what's going on with their activities of daily living, of cooking and cleaning and sex. I mean, geez, how do you, it's hard on our partners. There's so much. The fears of not being able to go back to work. I mean, I feel great now, energy-wise. My pain, like I said, is subsiding. My swallowing is better. I'm eating, I'm drinking. I'm healthy. I'm starting to stretch. And tomorrow's my checkup, and I'm probably going to get cleared to go to work. And I'm scared because I don't think I can run around my OR. I don't know. I got to figure it out. I got to make it happen. I did ask to take no night shifts at least for another month. So I'm going to take the time that I need to fully feel ready. The emotions are a little better, probably only because I do meditate, and my children were here and we had the holidays together, and I'm surrounded by the people I love. All my friends were surfing yesterday, and I sat on the beach. I had my yoga mat, I had a book, I had my umbrella, I covered up my scar. I was just doing pretty good. No sun on those things. Do not allow the sun on it, or it will look like this one, which looks like shit. I'm going to let this one heal a little better. I was watching my friends surf for 3 hours, and instead I just shot photos of them. I spent all day editing and blah, blah, blah. I sent them all my photos. I put together a video for New Year's, Happy New Year's. And that was fun. And I wasn't like, oh my God, I have to surf. I was like, I can't wait to surf. I will be able to surf, but it's going to be painful and very difficult because my extension is very limited and this muscle spasm in it. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I have full function of my arms and legs with limited neck extension and rotation, so I will figure it out. But I still, nonetheless, for someone who's never been depressed my entire life, ever, and I'm a trooper when it comes to traumatic situations, challenging situations, I've never felt depressed. I feel sad or depressed situationally, but I've never felt like I can't live like this. But in this situation, I have been feeling like I don't want to be in this body. I don't like being so limited in my movement. If you didn't watch my other videos, I am also a dancer. I was a ballroom dancer. I was training to compete. I'm not that good, but amateur ballroom competition. I dance salsa, bachata, other Latin dances, hustle. And it's a huge part of my life in addition to surfing. And the level of compensation I'm going to have to do remains to be seen. So the emotions have been really, really, really challenging. So I'm going to end on that note. I would love to communicate with people who are going through the same thing. You can't find anywhere in the literature how people can feel so depressed after this, especially someone who is an athlete. My brother went through 3 emergency neck operations in the last year, and he's doing great. He's beyond the pain. He's a little ahead of me, a month ahead of me in his recovery, but he's fine. He plays guitar. He could do his physician business, and he can fly his planes. He's got instruments. He doesn't need to look left or right to do anything he does. So his limited mobility works for him. And I think even he is having a hard time understanding why I'm so depressed. And everyone's like, oh, you'll be better. I don't know. I set out to find a way to accept all of this from my very first post and be inspiring to others. So all I can do, what I can do, is continue to be in nature, eat whole nutritious foods, continue my meditation, do the PT that hopefully I'll be released to begin tomorrow, and continue my yoga and get my ass back in that ocean. But I know that the meditation component is tremendous. And so with that being said, I'm going to hang up now, rest my voice, and start the meditation and stretching. And that's my update for now. 2023, today's January 1st, 2023. I am exactly post-op week 6, ACDF, C34, and I'm going to find a way to get through this. All right, everybody, I hope you're doing well.